wasteful. They allow for more units to be created in battle. So Rain's reached the gold supply he wanted, and now you can see he's starting to pump those abominations and meat wagons. The reason you go for an abomination meat wagon mix against mostly mass Dyreds is simply damage type. Abominations are very difficult to kill with piercing damage and death coil, because with death coil level 3 you can heal 600 HP, which is quite a lot, and it's very difficult for the Dyreds to focus them down. And if you combine that with the other healing effects, heal scrolls for example, or cannibalize a statue should you choose to include one in your army, it's very difficult for the knight to quickly kill those abominations. And in the meantime, the gargoyles and meat wagons are very quickly going to take out those Dyreds with their basically their damage types, which do double damage against the night elf units, and in the case of meat wagons, double damage and splash. So by banking, Rain's able to create this army not only quite quickly, but also without a significant economic loss to himself. He's using his gargoyles at the moment to continually scout the night elf and not allow him to expand. And if you take off Fog of War and look at Deadman's point of view, Deadman, there's really nothing he can do. He's stuck in his base now, basically waiting for Rain to come and fight him. And in the obs chat they're saying, Rain's got a huge advantage. There's really nothing Deadman can do. Deadman's got pretty good hero levels and pretty good items, but he's basically stuck at 50 food without an expansion, whereas Rain, who's saved up a lot of gold, has now banked up his food. He's at 80 food with 4 abominations, 4 meat wagons, and about a dozen gargoyles, and he's going to basically go in and try and romp all over Deadman's army. And he's not going to try and wipe him out. Again, he just wants to keep crippling Deadman. He knows, Rain now knows, I've got the hero level advantage, my opponent hasn't expanded, and if there's anything Undead can do, it's if the game comes down to 1 gold mine versus 1 gold mine late game, they can outmass and outproduce any other race off that 1 gold mine, just through sheer fact of Undead units are extremely cost effective at higher tier. There's going to be a battle in about 30 to 40 seconds. So before we get into that, I want to be able to explain what's the micro process you should go through in these battles. First things first is your groupings. You basically want to have your heroes and abominations in the same group, say control group 1, your gargoyles as control group 2, and your meat wagons as control group 3. And the reason for that is that that's the order you're going to micro those units. So firstly, just attack ground your abominations into the enemy army, and all their job is to do is basically just accept damage and just tank for the rest of your army. Use your death coil only to heal abominations, and your nova only to try and pick off bears or heroes. Then it's very important to position your gargoyles on one flank of the opponent's army and basically shift select a range of Dyreds and just focus them down. And then do the same with your third control group of meat wagons. Focus down a number of Dyreds. You kill the Dyreds first with those 2 units simply because they will die the fastest, which reduces the opposing army's DPS most significantly, most quickly. And as you can see in the battle, that's exactly what Rain's doing. He's focused down as many of the light units as possible quickly, tanked with his abominations, healed with that death coil, and now that the number of Dyreds has almost completely all been wiped out, he's going to now focus down on those bears with his combined army. As you can see, Deadman's army has just been obliterated. Not only was Rain's army larger, but he had better hero levels, a better unit mix, better positioning, better items. The combination of all those early advantages that he forced, the constant unit kills, the constantly forced TPs, the rally-jacked units, the prevention of any expansions, have allowed Rain to just basically outmass his opponent. And you'll notice while this is going on, Rain's actually about to he's setting up a gold mine in his natural. He's using this push to gain momentum to put up his expansion. And as you can see, the game's now at this point basically over. There's very little Deadman can do. So it's about 21 minutes. The game, as I said, the game is basically over. And now Rain's about to retreat. The 2 players. This match was played in a clan war, which was tied up 1-on-1. So instead of trying to get fancy and just wipe out his opponent, Rain plays it safe, retreats, heals up his army, and then comes back to wipe out the Night Elf, because he doesn't want to risk really badly messing up at the end of the game and losing an important point in a clan war. And that's not a bad thing to get in the habit of. There's no point to take unnecessary risks in Warcraft. You can always, come back later when you're, ready and raring to go. He's bought time for that expansion to go up, so there's no reason to get too preoccupied with wiping his opponent out, because his opponent's about to run out of gold. Rain has income, so really his opponent's going to be wiped out at his leisure, and you're going to see he's going to mass back up to 80 food and then go wipe out his opponent. So what I'm trying to get across to you in this game is that from watching this replay, is that with the Gargoyle army, it can work against the summon hero, but that's map dependent. So when you're choosing an initial strategy, you've got to think, well, what do I know about my opponent, and what's the most logical thing that I should apply to defeat his strategy? Rain decided that, well, my opponent's going to go Beastmaster, try and basically creep as much as possible, and then he's going to go for Diarids, because Diarids with Beastmasters are very effective counter to Gargoyles. So how do I counter that? Well, I'm going to avoid fighting him when he's got the army advantage, when it's just Gargoyles and Summons versus... Diarids and Summons versus Gargoyles, because I can't win that. My army is not matched against my opponent. But what I can do is constantly harass, stop him from expanding, and basically starve my opponent. Pick off units here or there, bank, buy time, and then get up my army, which will give me the unit mix to defeat him. So, Rain's just one. Other things to consider is how you want to play against your Night Elf opponent. Would you like to pressure him early on and do a lot of fighting, which is commonly what you'll see players do against a Demon Hunter? They'll constantly pressure early game, maybe even dual Crypt Rush, with the intention of killing both players' armies off, so that the Demon Hunter-led army can't mass up. Which does work, but it tends to be a little bit do or die. If you overdo it and make a mistake, you throw the game away. Or if your opponent messes up, you win. But what Rain did is took a much safer option and just gradually wore down his opponent, and that's not a bad idea. The other, I suppose, critical decision is, do you want to expo or do you want to bank? On a map like Secret Valley, it's very hard to expand as undead, and your opponent can really get all over it very quickly. So instead, Rain decided, well, I'm going to stop my opponent from expanding, and I'm just going to bank and bank and bank. The amount you should bank is dependent on how easy it is to get an expansion up. If it's very hard to get an expansion up, you don't need to bank as much, because you're going to try and end the game sooner rather than later. If it's very easy to get an expansion up, say like Twisted Meadows, you can often bank a little bit more, because it's very easy to maintain that gold supply. So this was Destroyer covering an Undead vs Night Elf matchup. I hope you enjoyed it all. It was a lot of fun making this for the website. Hopefully I'll be around to do a few more, and this will go down well with you all. Before I leave, a couple of shout-outs. Firstly to System Shark for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. Shout-out to Frey, who gave me a little bit of coaching on what I should cover and how I should speak during my audios, what sort of tips I could give to people who are willing to listen. Shout out to Madchild, a fellow Undead audio commentator. Hopefully we'll be able to work together and really inundate all of the listeners out there with some great Undead ACs. Shout out to Orange, who's probably my favourite ACer at the moment. He's great to listen to. Big shout out to Friginators, one of my fellow Australian staff members, who I think does a fantastic job in the shoutcasting department, and also does some killer member ACs. Big shout out to Killer Frog. I love you too, buddy. And finally, a big shout out to James Sparrow, who's a member audio commentator. He just released another one on Gargoyles against Night Elves as well. It's really good. I just downloaded it before. I really recommend you go and listen to it. It's in the member audio section. There's a lot of audios from a lot of members in there. That's how I got started. So go and support your fellow Warcraft Replay forum members. Give them some support, give them some feedback, and maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll be inspired to do some audio commentaries yourself. This is Destroyer signing off. Bye.